Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really peeling back the layers on Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games. And this isn't just about, revisiting a blockbuster plot. We've gone through a stack of sources, literary analysis, critical reviews, sociopolitical commentary
Right.
to really pull out the key insights. We want to understand why this book didn't just sell millions, but actually reshaped popular culture.
Well, to set the stage for you, let's just nail down the basics. The Hunger Games, published back in 2008.
Yeah.
It's the first book in a trilogy, and it fits right into that young adult dystopian sci-fi genre. The whole thing is set in Panem.
Which is this future nation, right?
But-
Built on the ruins of North America.
Exactly. And it's ruled by this incredibly oppressive and wealthy city called the capital.
So our mission today is to cut right through all the noise. We want you to quickly get the core mechanics, the themes, and maybe most importantly, the cultural impact of this story. Why did this story about, teenage combat connect with so many people? What does it say about our own world?
Well, the answer really starts with the main tool of capital control. The Hunger Games themselves.
Their games, yeah.
This is an annual thing, a televised fight to the death. It's a perpetual punishment for rebellion that happened generations ago.
So each district has to send tributes.
One boy and one girl. And the sources are really clear on this. This is about governing through fear, but a very specific kind of fear packaged as entertainment.
Right. It's not just about killing them.
No. The point is to destroy hope, to make the districts watch their own children, their potential heroes, die on screen every single year.
Okay, so let's unpack that by meeting the person who breaks the system. Our focus immediately goes to Katniss Everdeen, District 12, coal mining country.
And she's defined by one single action right at the start.
Volunteering as tribute.
Yeah, to save her little sister, Prim. And what's key is that this is not an ideological choice. It's pure instinctual loyalty. She's driven by love, not revolution.
Which makes her such a complicated hero down the line.
And that instinct, that drive to protect, it immediately clashes with her co-tribute, Peter Mellark,
The baker's son.
the baker's son. The sources really stress that he's misunderstood. He's not just strong, he's strategic. He's emotionally intelligent.
And there's that backstory with the bread.
That is so crucial. Years before the games, he showed her this small moment of kindness. He gave her burnt bread when her family was starving. That detail tells you everything.
It shows he has this humanity, this maybe even a strategic grasp of how symbols and kindness work, which Katniss the Hunter just doesn't have at the beginning.
Not at all.
And that contrast gets thrown into sharp relief as soon as they get to the Capitol. The sources all point out how grotesque the whole preparation process is.
Oh, it's horrifying.
They're not taken for combat training, not at first. They're taken to be groomed. They get stylists, makeup, outfits.
A literal fashion show before a massacre.
Exactly. It just highlights this insane obsession the Capitol has with appearances and their genius for turning human tragedy into, must-see TV.
It's a masterclass in propaganda, really. And the supporting cast all feed into this.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Like Haymitch.
Haymitch Abernathy, their mentor. He's not just some drunk for comic relief. He is the voice of cynicism, of experience. He shows you the psychological damage the system does to its own victors.
And then you've got Effie Trinket, the escort from the Capitol.
Who is just the personification of blissful ignorance. It's all about manners and appearances for her.
While on the other side, you have Gale, Katniss's best friend.
And he's the revolutionary waiting to happen. He's back in District 12, representing that pure, uncompromising rage. And then, of course, there's President Snow.
The architect of it all, the embodiment of tyranny.
Yeah.
That detail about turning suffering into a fashion show is so important. Why not just rule with an army? This brings us straight into the arena itself. So what did the sources say was the real point of making these kids into celebrities before killing them?
It's all about psychological dominance, not just physical control. The Capitol needs the audience to be emotionally invested.
Not just scared.
Exactly. Because if the violence is just random and brutal, that breeds anger, resistance. But if it's choreographed, if it's televised with sponsors and betting and fan favorites,
Then the districts become part of their own oppression.
you become complicit. And
Yeah.
that is the absolute core of the media manipulation theme. For Katniss, her public image isn't just a bonus. It's her armor. It's life or death.
So the cameras, they're the real danger in the arena. And this is where Katniss's skills, her hunting and archery, they sort of crash into this need to perform for an audience.
Right, because survival in there isn't just about fighting. It's about strategic alliances.
Which brings us to PETA.
And their biggest strategy, this orchestrated romance, the whole star-crossed lovers narrative.
Which they use to get sympathy, to get supplies from sponsors.
It's a brilliant move. But what makes the story so much deeper, and what the analysis points to, is that while Katniss starts it all as a performance,
For Peeta, it's real.
his feelings are genuine from the start, and that tension is everything.
That line between performance and reality, it's the hinge for the entire book. It's where we get to that central theme of survival versus humanity. Katniss is constantly asking herself, how far will I go to live? She has to do brutal things, but to win over the audience, she also has to show her humanity.
She's forced to be both a killer and a performer. And you see it so clearly with her alliance with Rue, the little girl from District 11.
Oh, yeah.
When Rue dies, Katniss's grief is real, but it's also public. It's this unauthorized broadcast of pure humanity that totally defies what the Capitol wants the games to be. And that moment echoes far outside the arena.
And if you look at her choices, they are always driven by this fierce loyalty to Prim, to Rue, and eventually to Peeta.
Absolutely.
This theme of sacrifice and loyalty is what pulls her away from the script. The games are designed to teach you to save yourself at all costs, but she's willing to die for someone else, which is the complete opposite.
And that leads directly to the turning point, the big one. The Capitol, loving the drama of Katniss and Peeta, they announce a rule change.
2 tributes from the same district can win together.
It's pure spectacle, a way to stretch out the drama for the viewers at home.
They milk it for all it's worth until Katniss and Peeta are the last 2 standing, and then the twist.
Then they revoke the rule. The announcer comes on and says, "No, sorry, one must kill the other."
This is a moment the regime thinks it's won. It's showing the districts that hope is just a tool and they can take it away whenever they want.
But they miscalculated
Yes.
badly. Because Katniss and Peeta realize they hold all the power at that moment, the power of the show itself.
Instead of fighting, they pull out the berries.
The poisonous nightlock berries. They call the Capitol's bluff a double suicide.
And the Capitol just folds instantly. They declare both of them winners. The sources are so clear that this isn't mercy. It's a calculated move.
The panic move.
Right. Letting their 2 stars die on their own terms, live on air, that would shatter the illusion of Capitol power more than any rebellion could.
They chose to save the show, even if it meant undermining their own ultimate authority.
And that moment with the berries, that's the spark. The Capitol is furious. Katniss's act was just about survival, about loyalty to Peeta.
But it's immediately read by the districts as a political act, a gesture of defiance. It shows that the regime can be beaten, that their rules can be broken. This is the seed of the rebellion.
Which brings us to the bigger picture, the entire story as a political allegory. This is so much more than teen drama. It's a pretty scathing critique of authoritarianism.
And some argue late-stage capitalism. It uses the games to explore how a ruling class keeps control.
You see the massive inequality, the glittering, wasteful capital versus the starving districts.
You see the propaganda machine at work, sanitizing brutality. The Capitol doesn't just want power, it wants to be loved for its power.
It's like a modern version of bread and circuses.
Exactly. Use spectacle and just enough food to keep people distracted and obedient. It's cheaper to control minds than it is to control armies.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the real-world impact, because this deep dive is about the significance of the book. And The Hunger Games didn't just sell well, it changed the entire literary landscape.
Oh, it absolutely ignited what analysts call the YA dystopian boom. It created the template. Suddenly you had this explosion of politically charged fiction for young adults.
Moving away from, like, fantasy and magic.
Right, and into critiques of social injustice. I mean, think about what followed. Divergent, The Maze Runner, all these stories center on young people defying a rigid, controlling government. It's a direct echo of the themes Katniss brought into the mainstream.
And then came the movies, 2012. The film with Jennifer Lawrence just blew it up exponentially.
It became a global sensation. It took these ideas out of the book world and put them directly into the global consciousness.
This is where the symbolism really took on a life of its own.
The symbolism became incredibly potent. The Mockingjay, which is Katniss's little pin.
And the 3-finger salute.
That salute. It started in the book as this silent gesture of respect, of farewell in District 12. And it was almost instantly adopted in real-world political protests all over the world.
Why those symbols, though? We've seen them used in democracy movements everywhere. What makes a pin and a hand gesture so powerful in the real world?
Well, The sources suggest it's because they represent this silent, nonviolent, but completely undeniable solidarity.
We don't have to say anything.
Exactly. The three-finger salute is a way for a group to show defiance without speaking a word that can be policed or censored. It's subtle, but everyone knows what it means. It's an easy symbol to share, to spread across borders and languages. It connected the fictional struggle of Panem with very real anxieties people were feeling.
So to synthesize this for you, the listener, the story's power doesn't just come from the action. It comes from its really sharp political critique. It shows how a system of oppression, the televised spectacle, can be flipped on its head by one single instinctual act of defiance.
Yeah, the ultimate irony is the most powerful takeaway. The rebellion wasn't started by some grand plan. It was started by an act of loyalty Katniss trying to save Peeta and herself. And that personal act inadvertently became the most effective tool for mass resistance against this massive tyranny.
Which proves that the biggest political statements often start as the most deeply human ones.
Mm-hmm.
So this leaves a really interesting question for you to think about long after this is over. Consider how a modern regime, one that bases its entire power on controlling the media, on choreographing a spectacle, how that can be instantly undermined.
Yeah.
What happens when that public image, so carefully built by the Capitol, becomes the very weapon that brings it all down? Think about that razor-thin line between spectacle and sincerity. Thank you for engaging with the deep dive.